to our subscribers here. There we go. All month, we're going to be starting the attractive personality. And we're going to be talking about how having an attractive personality, this is out of Napoleon Hill, can change our life. How having an attractive personality changes our reality. Because when you start working on you and you segment a time to work on you, let's say this segmentation, intentional segmentation, and I've been going over this, we use words to understand the movement. Right now I'm using intentional segmentation, so we intentionally segment and reposition ourselves as awareness. And this month we're going through attract your personality. If you begin to segment time to work on your personality, you're going to start to change it. You're going to evaluate it. You're going to evaluate the way you interact with people. You're going to evaluate the way you dress, the way you look, how you feel. Intentional segmentation positions you as awareness, consciousness, the wave, beyond the observer. You want to go beyond the observer because the observer has already been built. Your personal observation is the thing that needs to change. So when we can go beyond the observer by going to use a word that positions us beyond our observations, beyond our awareness, beyond our transmission, we can evaluate the lower self, which is subcortical. And you guys that are new to this, you'll be able to start to be able to reason with what I'm talking about. But you've got to be in the classes. Again, I teach these classes to people that want to change, that are ready to change, that no longer want to be normal. These classes are not for people that are normal, that want to stay normal. They're to go beyond being normal. They're to change yourself. I learned a long time ago that you cannot force change. People have to want to change. And the biggest thing, the hardest thing you're ever going to do in life is change yourself. Everybody gets to the point to where personal development no longer works because you can no longer change that person. The person needs to evolve. So everybody that's in personal development or is in changing results or goal setting, you're going to get to the point where that person and that personality needs to be rewritten. I teach people how to rewrite it. The biggest thing that you will ever have to face is the lowest part of your personality, which is a network of information, literally a set of programs, beliefs, and that's what you have to change. You're never going to change results outside of yourself until you work on you. And that's the thing that scares everybody. Everybody wants the result. They want it quick. They want it easy. They want it fast. What they don't understand, it's them that has to change. So you can pick up books. You can pick up a theme. I have been in these classes with people. They think that they're fixing something outside. They're fixing something inside before you fix something outside. We can pick up a theme and we can talk about it, but until we move into your area, that's when it becomes real. And that's the issue. People like to talk about things, discuss things until they actually have to move in their area of awareness, into their area of significance, and their area of beliefs. Then all of a sudden, the theme is no longer so theatrical. You no longer want to talk about the theme because you're figuring that out, that the area from which you have to change is going to be in the heart of your own mind. Then it became real. Then goal setting all of a sudden is real. then goal setting is all of a sudden, it's a challenge to them because the area from which they were going to have to work on was inside. I want everyone to pay very close attention. I'm going to play some videos. And I'm going to jump around a little bit so you guys get as much as you can out of it. And let me get this switched over. If you look at your results in the last couple of years, if they're more or less the same, it's not an accident. You have a perfectly operating brain. You have a perfectly operating program. And you're stuck. And that's the way an individual lives their whole life, more or less. They stay stuck. If you're sick and tired of being stuck, if you're sick and tired of living the same lifestyle, you got to invest in yourself. I'm going to ask you guys to invest in yourselves. I'm going to ask you to spend money on yourselves. Why? Because when you pay attention. When you're paying for something, you're going to do the work. When you're having to spend your money on yourself, you're having to change yourself. Chances are you're going to pay more attention. You're going to do the work. You're going to sit down and study. When you don't pay, it has no significance. I want people to clearly understand, I am going to give you information that is directly positioning you to change who you are, what you are, till you evaluate where you're at, to evaluate your reality, what you're spending time on, what you're not spending time on, who you spend time with. Really evaluate everything about you so that you can really decide, choose how it is you truly want to live. I'm going to get started. We're going to move into attractive personality. I want to hit a couple of points because these are the points that from where you're going to have to identify and work from. We've got a little video. I'm going to play a little bit of Bob's video here on getting into the spirit of it. You can never have a thing until you get into the spirit of the thing. And what you have to understand is you are ready. If you don't choose to set a goal, if you don't choose to change your life, that's okay. You can continue to live the way you're living. But you are already into the spirit of your programs, your beliefs, your ideas. Your spirit moved into information. So you're already into the spirit of a thing. That's your default setting. That's why you always go back to what you know. But if you want to go beyond, spirit must identify with something new, get into the spirit of this is something new, and then take actions towards that something new so that it may rearrange reality. When I get started.
Most people have is they have trouble reaching their goals. And I was going over this lesson myself today, reviewing it, reading it, studying it. And I thought when we enter into the spirit of it, I think the key word there is it. What is it we're entering into the spirit of? When we say it, I think what we want to be looking at is our goals or a project that we're working on. I'm working on projects all the time. As I got thinking about this, as we enter into the spirit of it, we go to spirit and we create the good that we desire. That's where we created. We created in a spiritual realm. And then, as we get into the spirit of it, we're into the vibration we have to be in to attract everything that's necessary when it's necessary. We attract it. Now, I think the key part of this lesson is, what is it? Are you really entering into the spirit of it? You see, when you're entering into the spirit of it, you don't enter into what you've got now. because what you've got now may be just a very small fraction of whatever it is you're going after. When you enter into the spirit of it, you enter into the complete, the whole thing. It's like Van Gogh said when he was asked how he did such beautiful work. He said, I dream my painting, and then I paint my dream. He could have said, I get into the spirit of my painting, and then I paint my spiritual concept. See, we build the prototype in spirit, and then it moves into form. So we're into the spirit of it, we're into the complete, we're into the finished product. I put together a few PowerPoints, and I want to go over them with you. So if we throw those up on the screen, please, Scott. Now, there's the enemy. It's also one of the best things we've got going for us. See, paradigm is a multitude of ideas that are fixed in our subjective mind that control our behavior. Well, a lot of our behavior is very constructive, it's very positive, and it's life-giving as well as life-saving. The part of our paradigm we don't want is all those bad habits that are in there that cause us to put things off, that cause us not to do it, that cause us not to study into this lesson. We've got a lot of habits in there that are slowing us down and holding us back. We've got a lot of concepts in there that block our understanding of what getting into the spirit of it really means. So let's go in and take a look at this. Now, I want you to pay really close attention to this. This is very, very important. There's the results. We take a look at the results. And how do we look at the results? We look at the results through our senses, because that's how we've been programmed to look at everything. We don't look with our inner eye of understanding. We don't look with the part of us that gets us into the spirit of it. That's taken us into another dimension that we're not a part of on our physical level. So we look the way we've been programmed. We look with our senses at the results. And what do? Well, if there's a problem there, we get totally wrapped up in that problem. If there's a lack of financing, if there's a lack of funds, if there's a lack of people. You see, the truth is we can do anything that we can think of. We just got to figure out how we're going to do it. Well, you got to get into the spirit of it if you're going to do it. Well, here's an individual here. Could be any one of us at any time. And we are looking at a physical result. The conscious mind is filled with the image of present reality. And then what do? We get emotionally involved with that. We are very emotionally involved with what's going on. We got this problem. We're going to solve this problem. Well, and we take a look at the problem. We're discussing the problem. And, you know, we have a hard time finding anybody that's not involved in the negative aspect of this. And we move into that vibration, and what happens? We have a dream. Well, we have a dream. This is what we want. But it seems like it's out there, and we can't have it, and it comes and fades. That's not what we're involved in. We're not emotionally involved in the dream. We're emotionally involved in whatever's going on in our physical world, and it's blocking the dream from filling our consciousness because our mind is too emotionally involved in the challenge of the moment. The dream comes and goes, but it's never given the time of day that it should require. Now, why do we do this? We do this because we're programmed to do it. That's exactly why we do it. We've never been taught to get into the spirit of thing. We've been told, well, you look at this. Well, you look at what you've done now. Well, let me see that report card. Why did you do this? And on and on and on it goes. And of course, the report card becomes the balance sheet, and the report card becomes the doctor's, analysis of whatever's going on. And we're programmed to let our outside world control the inside. It's not a good thing. Now, what should we do? Well, let's take a look at it again. Only we'll look at it a different way. We can get this clicker to work. That's right. Produce the same results over and over again. Okay? Now, it's not working. Now let's take a look here. Here we are, same person, and when a person first started to study this, they said, well, should I ignore the results? You can't ignore the results. Well, let's see. Should we ignore the results? I don't think so. Let's say there's a serious shortage of funds or money. That seems to be one of the universal big problems that people have. And no, we look at it, we realize that there is a shortfall in the money. But now, we've got a memory, so we will remember that. That doesn't mean that we have to concentrate on that like we did back here. You see, that's where we were concentrating on the problem. That's not what we do here. We take a look and we've got a memory and we remember there was a shortfall. And then what do? Well, we've got these other higher faculties too. Let's take one of them. We'll take this one. And then we will take and we will put that to work because that's in our consciousness too. And then we'll take this power that flows into our consciousness and we stop and ask ourselves, what do I want? Not what's going on outside now. We're not going to let that fill our consciousness. We looked at it, the memory's there, we realize there's a shortfall, but we realize it's temporary because we're going to create what we want. So the person builds with their imagination, they see themselves with what they want. How do you get into the spirit of anything? You get into the spirit of it through your higher faculties. Because your higher faculties that take you into this higher dimension. Now think, you plant that idea in your heart. And this is the start of desire. The desire is the high octane fuel that fills our heart and causes that want to grow into something bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it becomes a desire. You see, the desire is the effort of the unexpressed possibility within. We have got into the spirit of it. We went to spirit. We went into the higher dimension, and we filled our mind with the picture of it complete. Because we can do that because we're creative beings. So we build a picture of the complete thing, what we want to see, and we want to see that thing really flying. I mean, just humming, really going. And then that desire is expressed on the physical level in vibration. So we move into a higher vibration, and what's that do? That causes the results to manifest in form. The image must manifest in results. Now that's the difference between getting into the spirit of it and letting the outside control us. Now, let's make a decision. Let's make a firm decision that we're going to get into the spirit of whatever it is we're doing. I was talking to
So here we go. And Bob was clearly depicting the mental movements that we have to do, the physical movements that we have to do. We're going over intentional segmenting reality, intentionally making a decision that you're going to go beyond what you know, that you're going to take actions and do things that you've never done before, that you're going to invest in yourself, you're going to change yourself. If you intentionally make decisions that you're going to work on you, you will begin to change reality. If you do not intentionally make the decisions, you go back to default. We go back to what we know. We go back to thinking and feeling as we normally were. And that's the issue. Here I want to touch on intentional segmenting your day that you're going to intentionally segment, you're going to bracket out an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours. You're going to intentionally segment out your day by making decisions. You're going to work in specific areas of your reality that are going to change your life. Why? Because your life is already segmented. Your life already has its default settings for 1 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16 hours. You have already, your paradigms, your beliefs about you, from you to you. This is an inner working. This is a working about you, from yourself to yourself, that you can never get away with. And this is why the techniques that I do, I position you directly in yourself to work on yourself. So you will have to look at you and look at your default habits and behaviors that you would normally go through throughout the day, so that you can see what you need to change about yourself. Go ahead.
So my question is to you. So what you're saying, okay, I would have to, because I'm trying to get the movement. So I have to go into a dream.
Correct.
I'm
You've got to
going
go
into
into
my
your
dream.
own dream, your own vision. And here's the key. The average individual doesn't know they had to create their own reality. Why? Because they're going their default setting. Their default setting is their dream. They didn't know that all of their ideas were set up by default, because they moved into a body and they moved into all of those images of everybody around them. And then they moved into what can be done and what can be done by everybody else and what they told them. So the average individual is not dreaming the reality. And if they do, they'll get to a certain point and they stop. You literally have to build, reconstruct, redesign everything that you've lived in the past. Because everything in the past is the images that you've been using to create. You may look right now, look around the home you live in. Look at the lifestyle you live. At one point, that was a good idea. Huh? At one point, that was a good idea. But at some point, you stop believing.
Because it's somebody else's dream. It was somebody else's thoughts, not your own.
Correct. At the end of the day, we get stuck with ourselves. The way we analyze, the way we perceive, the way we think, the way we imagine. At the end of the day, it's all about you. We chose the habits unconsciously, normally. We chose the business, the company that we work for, the company that we built. We've chosen the relationships in our life. We did that. Ultimately, I'm speaking directly to the individual, always. There's nothing outside of us. It is us that creates relationships. It is us that breaks relationships. It is us that builds relationships, professional, personal. It is us that builds a reality. It was always you. The difference is we're normally not analyzing whose ideas we're using to create me. Let's analyze hills. When we go through every month, we're going through a lesson every month. Part of our programs is going Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. classes to retrain the way you think. Again, If you're not working on you, you're not going to change. Some of you may segment your day to work on your physical body. But if you're not working on your mental body, your mental mind, you're not going to change anything else. So this lesson, we're going over attractive personality. Napoleon Hill studied 500 of the wealthiest men in the world at that time. And what was it that they were doing to change the way they think? What was it that they were doing that they were thinking differently than everyone else? Why were they getting results that nobody else was getting? Why were there people in the middle of the Depression that were winning and everybody else around the world was suffering? So they had to have been clearly thinking differently. When you look around the city, look around your city. You're going to find places, the slums, where there's not much prosperity. They're thinking differently. You can look around the city, you can find mid-lifestyle. They're thinking differently. And then you can go to a smaller corner of the city, and I directly tell you it's going to be smaller. It's normally a quarter or less of the size of the city. Normally 3%. Go look for the 3% in your city, and you will find that everybody else lives more or less the same. Not an accident. Go look in 3% of the city that is completely out of the norm. Their revenue is going to extend in the 300, 500 millions or billions. But the average individual, 95, 97%, 98% of people, 99% of the people are living under $150,000 a year. 100,000, the average is 70, 60, 50, $70,000 a year. Why? How could so many people be wrong? You would think that if so many people are going in the same direction, you would think they'd have to be right. But history has shown that the masses are normally wrong. They're always wrong. They're always going in the wrong direction. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but they're programmed that way. If you want to have a different lifestyle, you want to have different results, you're going to have to go against the grain. You're going to have to study. You're going to have to behave as you never have. I'm going to get started on attractive personality. What is attractive personality? Of course, the answer is a personality that attracts. But what causes a personality to attract? Let us proceed to find out. Your personality is the sum total of your characteristics and appearances that distinguish you from all others. The clothes you wear, the lines on your face, the tone of your voice, the thoughts you think, the character you have developed by those thoughts all constitute parts of your personality. Whatever your personality is, attractive or not, is another matter. By far, the most important part of your personality is that which is represented by your character and is, therefore, the part that is not visible. And here we start going into the interwoven parts of your human personality that is unseen. We use words to understand a movement. We use words to understand a movement that is not publicly observable. And the biggest part of your personality is unrevealed until you're willing to reveal it. You're willing to see it for what it is. Again, you're going to have to analyze what's going on inside that is not publicly observable. It is a mental movement that is not publicly observable. You're the only one that can see yourself for truly for what you think you are and for what you think you're not. This information, these teachings are a consistent process of evaluating the thing that is unseen. But you can see yourself in the mirror. You can look at the mirror, and that's the only place you can ever work. This attractive personality is invisible. but it moves out from its thoughts. By far most important part of your personality is that which is represented by the character and is therefore the part that is not visible. The style of your clothes and their appropriateness undoubtedly constitute a very important part of your personality. For it is true that people, from first impressions of you, from your outward appearance, they form ideas. You form ideas. You look at the clothes you wear, you could tell who's going to be a worker. You could tell what clothes they put on by whether they work labor, whether they work out in the field, whether they work in an office. The clothing is depicting the nature of activity that's going on mentally. Even the manner in which you shake hands forms an important part of your personality and goes a very long way toward attracting or repelling those with whom you shake hands. The expression of your eyes also forms an important part of your personality, for there are people, and they are more numerous than one might imagine, who can look through your eyes into your heart and see that which is written there by the nature of your most secret thoughts. The vitality of your body, sometimes called personal magnetism, also constitutes an important part of your personality. Now let us proceed to arrange these outward elements through which the nature of our personality is expressed so that it will attract and not repel. There's one way in which you can so express the composite of your personality that it will always attract, even though you may not be considered physically attractive. And it is by taking keen heart interest in the other fellow's game in life. Let me illustrate exactly what I mean by relating an incident that happened some years ago, from which I was taught a lesson in Master of Salesmanship. One day, an old lady called at my office and sent in her card with a message saying that she must see me personally. No amount of coaxing by secretaries could induce her to disclose the nature of her visit. Therefore, I made up my mind that she was some poor old soul who wanted to sell me a book. And remembering that my own mother was a woman, I decided to go out to the reception room and buy her book, whatever it might be. Please follow every detail thoughtfully, for you too may learn a lesson in Master of Salesmanship from this incident. As I walked down the hallway from my private office, this old lady, who was standing just outside of the railing that led onto the main reception room, began to smile. I had seen many people smile, but never before had I seen one who smiled so sweetly as did this lady. It was one of those contagious smiles because I caught the spirit of it and began to smile as well. As I reached the railing, the old lady extended her hand to shake hands with me. Now, as a rule, I do not become too friendly on first acquaintance when a person calls at my office because it is very hard to say no if the caller should ask me to do that which I do not wish to do. However, this dear old lady looked so sweetly innocent and harmless that I extended my hand and she began to shake it. Whereupon I discovered that she not only had an attractive smile, but also had a magnetic handshake. She took hold of my hand firmly, but not too firmly, and very manner in which she went about it telegraphed the thought to my brain that it was she who was doing the honors. She made me feel that she was really and truly glad to shake my hand, and I believe that she was. I believe that her handshake came from the heart as well as from the hand. I have shaken hands with many thousands of people during my public career, but I do not recall having ever done so with anyone who understood the art of doing it as well as this old lady did. The moment she touched my hand, I could feel myself slipping. I knew that whatever it was that she had come after, she would go away with, and that I would aid and abet her, all could toward this end. In other words, the penetrating smile, that warm handshake, had disarmed me and made me a willing victim. At a single stroke, this old lady had shown me, allowed me to take off my false shell, into which I would crawl when salesmen come around selling or typing to sell, trying to sell, which I do not want. So here we're looking at an attractive personality. The way you engage a person either closes someone off to you or opens someone up. Remember that in your day-to-day activity, the way you present yourself, you're entangling information. People will feel you. They will feel the way you interact. They will feel your intentions. They will feel the way you're moving out into the world. Whether they're conscious of it or not, it is happening. What we want to illustrate here is how to position yourself to live a better life, to open up more doors, to open yourself up for more experiences, to develop yourself to become the person you want to be. You have to have an attractive personality. An attractive personality always gains and attracts other attractive personalities. Why is this so? Because nobody wants to be around somebody that has a bad attitude. Nobody wants to be around somebody that's negative. So an attractive personality will always attract other attractive personalities. An attractive personality will always open the doors to new opportunities and to experience more things. So always begin within yourself. Bob's talking about changing yourself, changing your self-image, changing the way you think and believe about yourself. But you have to get into the spirit of doing the thing. You have to make a mental decision that you're going to change something in you. So here becomes the beginning. Some of you guys were at the beginning of the year. A lot of people are wanting to put goals that they're never going to do because they don't know how to change the way they think. They don't know how to change their mindset. They don't know how to work on themselves. They don't know how to change the thing that's governing their reality. And that thing is something that is not publicly observable. It is a movement that you're doing and you're not aware, and you don't understand how to get into the spirit or the control of your personal factor. And this is what we teach. I see we're at our time. Thank you guys that are watching this, and analyze yourself. I ask you to take a book, write down throughout your day, how often are you thinking negative things about yourself or about others? I invite you guys to do this work because this is the beginning of how you begin to learn how to change something in you that is unseen, that you really can't put your finger on it. But by taking on these tools, by taking on these techniques, by taking on this conceptual protocols that we teach, you can begin to change everything about yourself that you have never been able to understand. We're at our time. You guys can leave questions for the future. We're doing this every week. You guys can leave me a message. You guys want to get involved in the programs, send me a message. Have a blessed day for now. Thank you guys. And everybody have a wonderful day.
Have a great day.
Thank you.